Welcome to SD Talk Show. Hi, Danny.
Hi, Sky. How's your week so far?
Oh, it's really good and so busy.
Busy, huh? Constantly busy.
Yeah.
I've heard that we have some good guests today.
Yes, really good guest. And I know
What is his name?
Mr. Bill
Rickert, the
Rickert.
treasurer of Fort Bend,
Yeah.
one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. Mr. Bill, would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. I'm Bill Rickert. I'm the Fort Bend County Treasurer. I was elected in 2018, started office in January 2019, and have had the pleasure of serving the people of Fort Bend County since then.
Great. You know, Sky, you and I have interviewed and talked to a lot of leaders and politicians with different positions. But I think this is our first time interview a treasurer. Do you know what a treasurer does?
It's a money guy.
Sure. Let the money explain himself.
Also, his name is really
Bill Rickert. Yeah.
Really
And you
nice.
told me earlier he looked like
money guy. To the money.
the person who can manage the money for County. Bill, welcome on our show.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yes.
And it's very easy to enlighten people when you talk about the county treasurer's office because they really generally don't know much about it.
Right.
And in every county it's a little bit different, the roles and responsibility. But the one key role is the person with the fiduciary responsibility for all the county's funds, where they are, where they move, having them in the right place, moving them to the investments, moving them back in, moving the money to pay bills. We also, in our office, do the payroll for the entire county. So we have roughly 3,300 employees dependent on us, and it's a big role of financial responsibility.
Right.
The treasurer's office, the treasurer is actually bonded for $500,000, and there's also another bond of $100,000 for the drainage district and several other entities that I serve as treasurer for, like the toll road and those type things.
Right. You know, when you see a treasurer, you see his signatures on every check. That is issue.
Yeah, the IRS.
No, not quite, but it's from the county. From the county. She's trying to test my knowledge.
I know.
But it's from the county.
Yeah.
So basically, you're not making a decision of how the money is spent, but you want to make sure that every dollar come out is in accordance, is in line with.
Correct. There's two aspects. One, Commissioners Court adopts a budget for a year.
Yes.
And they have to follow that budget, and any changes in that have to be adopted along the year. And then any payments, the decision, who we're going to hire as a contractor or engineer or whatever is all done by Commissioners Court, and then the authorization for those payments is all done by Commissioners Court. Then it comes back to us to actually process those payments and get those out to the appropriate people.
Right. What did you find most interesting about your job as a treasurer?
The most interesting, coming in, my background was, I worked in oil and gas, in the exploration side, and we did a lot about, the big thing was continuous improvement, right? And always finding new, better, more efficient, cheaper ways to do things. So that part of my experience has been a big part of what we've done coming into the treasurer's office, is taking a look at processes, procedures, looking for gaps, looking for risk, and being able to go in and make some changes.
Right. What do you like least? What do you enjoy the least about this job?
Change moves slow with government, right? In general, I would say government, county government, there's a lot of, that's the way it's always been done. Why do we want to do this? Why do we, it's very hard, to, some things might take, it may take a year to get something in place that, in the private sector would have taken me a month. So that's probably the most challenging part.
Right. So coming from a private background, I mean, you must find that very frustrating because, I mean, you see there's a better way of doing it, but you cannot just change procedure because you see it is more efficient.
I have always kind of been the go-to person for being patient, you know, as far as moving things along. You know, I can remember many times in my career there would be challenging personnel or challenging projects, and they would end up in my lap because they knew, you know, everybody knew, you know, if anybody can get so-and-so to do something, you know, to be productive, Rickert can. If it, you know, if anybody can get this project moving in the right direction, Rickert can. You know, so it's I've always been that guy. So I guess I have the personality that can work in any environment, you know, and I like to look at the perspective of the other person, right? You know, and try to, you know, I'm a firm believer in if you get people to want to work for you, you get a whole lot more out of them than if you make them work for you, you know. And since the county government is like a highly matrixed corporation with no CEO, right? Because each elected position reports to the people, right? So, you know, we don't, that's who we answer to ultimately. And, you know, so you have all these different elected officials, you have all these different departments that basically answer through Commissioner's Court, and all these different pieces, and you have to work and get consensus on things as you're trying to make changes, improve things, or you know, go through. So I think my natural personality and talents played in real good for being able to adjust and get into it.
So you're very blessed.
Yeah.
On a scale from 1 to 10, where do you think the county is standing in terms of efficiency, effectiveness? The reason I asked you that because if you are an elected position, you cannot be fired. Only the people only people can fire you. Other people can fire you. So basically, so I hope you're comfortable to answer that question. What is the level of efficiency and effectiveness of the county?
Well, I'm a technology guy by origin, right? Software development, and then, like I said, moved into industry and did a lot of process improvement. So, of course, I see lots of gaps where we could be doing things better, right? And where we could improve efficiencies with technology. But it's not always technology for the sake of technology, because, you know, quite often, you know, I saw many situations, even in the commercial sector, you identify a gap, and some people go off and they're like, oh, here's the best, let's buy this software, we can slot it in and fill that gap. But then you create two gaps, one on either side, right? And you know, as you know, in the treasurer's office, you know, one of my favorite sayings is, if we're touching the number keys, we have a gap, right? We should not have humans in the end entering numbers. Everything should be integrated together, right? So that it all works together, and we're overseeing the process and making sure it's accurate, correct, and efficient. So, you know, eliminating human interaction in the process and the dependency on accuracy, right, is an area where you need to do. I mean, I know we have initiatives in place for, you know, looking at software for permitting and for things like that, and all those we have, you know, room for improvement in.
So it sounds like you're suggesting more automation.
And I talk a lot with our IT guys, you know, because, you know,
like QuickBook, everything synchronized.
Synchronizing everything together and making sure it all works seamlessly. And you know, like I said, I work closely with the IT guys because they know, a lot of them know my background, and I'm happy to, you know, give them, you know, input where they would like it and help it. So I try to contribute, you know, outside of my circle of control. You know, and I think I have a significant circle of influence within other parts of the county.
Besides asking you about your job, your responsibilities, and all that, we also want to know about your personal area. And I think the person who will be best asking you that question is my co-host, and she will be asking you.
I want to know you how to involve for the politics And do you enjoy?
Yeah, so, I said many times that I would never run for office. I mean, if you back up into when our family moved here in 1992.
Right.
I was working for an international company, traveling around the world, all our different offices, managing people all over the world, and I wasn't. I was in and out of the county, and I was not the one that was actively involved in the community. It was my wife and my daughters who were growing up
Lisa.
here. Lisa, yep.
Lisa Rickert.
Yep, and so, they were, heavily involved. My wife is, and both our families have been, believe in community involvement, engagement, and giving back. So through Girl Scouts and other avenues, they were involved with lots of nonprofits and work in the community. My wife was also, the first homeowner on our HOA board in New Territory, and she's been involved in, all different aspects of MUDs, lids, and all the type of things. So I do have to credit them for the exposure in the community, and as I left the oil industry, as the oil industry was turned down this last time, my wife had a business, and so I started helping her with that, and I decided to take a package and was helping her with that. And then after several years, someone had approached and wanted to buy out the business.
Yeah.
So I started looking at what was I going to do, right? I said, well, I don't want to go back to traveling around the world. I'd rather stay here in Fort Bend County. And in the meantime, I had been involved and engaged in more locally on things since I wasn't traveling, and I was involved in the Rosenberg Railroad Museum. I was, asked on the board, and then became president, and had to deal with, some early financial issues we had there, and helped turn the place around. Also with the help of my wife, who volunteered and gave her time doing it. But I started looking at, okay, what can I do in Fort Bend County? And as I was asking that question to multiple people going around who own businesses and whatever, and everybody kept saying, well, Jeff Council, the county treasurer, he's retiring.
I remember Jeff.
He's retiring. Why don't you'd be perfect for that. You have the business experience, you have, logic, reasoning, all the different pieces that might, come into play. And I kept saying no, and then over and over again, the topic kept coming up until finally I said, well, maybe this is what's meant to be. Maybe this is the blessing I'm supposed to move forward with, and I did, and here I am.
Right. As a matter of fact, I know Bill and his wife Lisa for a long time. They are very active in the community, skies. And a lot of people, when they started running, they said, oh, I care for the communities and all that. But usually I look at that person's track records. They've been around. I mean, they serve on different boards and committees and all that. We are in real estate, commercial real estate. So, I mean, I know that you have served on mud. You know something about mud. There's a lot of land that do not have water, Sky. So what is the alternative solutions? Mud. So can you please explain it to our audience who own a piece of land and it doesn't have water? What should they do? How they should get started?
Well, I mean, Texas, we have a very unique process. Growing up in Louisiana, there was no such thing as these, basically called in general Texas special districts, right? Which, MUDs is one of the types. The levy districts are another type, and you have management districts and all those types of things. But, specifically municipal utility districts are set up to allow, a developer to form an entity is formed, a governmental entity that's basically like a quasi-limited city-type situation where you can set up water infrastructure and.
But it's owned by the government.
It's a governmental entity.
It's a governmental entity.
It's a governmental entity, and it's a taxing entity.
Yes. That's why they see mud on the tax bill.
Yeah. So it allows, development to proceed, at a faster rate, and have to wait on, annexation and becoming part of a city, and
may never happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Otherwise, the developer's got to foot the whole bill, which then makes the development too
Yes.
expensive to make sense. And
Yes.
you know, whether it's homes or commercial or whatever it is, it's.
Right, right. So how does the process work, Bill? Let's say they couldn't get tap into the city water. So I mean, what does that property owner, landowner do?
Well,
Step one.
Well, it depends on one, are they in city limits or outside city limits, right? So if you're outside city, typically a mud is formed outside city limits.
Right, right.
And you have to go through the process of with the state of you know, applying to create a mud, right? And then it actually goes before the state legislature to get created. Right.
How long does the process take?
I'm not actually sure. I think
5, 7, 8 months.
Yeah, I think
had
it's
one
a pretty.
done.
Yeah, I think it's.
I had one done in Missouri City. It took about 8 months.
8 months, yeah.
Yes, but how did they find out the cost, or is it feasible or not to have a mud?
I guess you would have to do your economic analysis on what the property is going to be used for, right, and the return on that investment, and then how, you know, to you know, get what it's going to cost for the infrastructure, you know, to get water, because now we have, you know, when it comes to drinking water, we have the groundwater issue, and you know, you can't really drill wells anymore, so.
Oh, they stop allowing people to drill well, right?
Yeah.
Not everywhere, though.
No, not everywhere. It depends on the situation for the local area, and that's, you know, this, you know, we have a subsidence district here in Fort Bend that looks at all that for Fort Bend County. And
you know what groundwater is, right? Yeah. Explain to the Sky what groundwater is in.
Yeah, that's the ground. You know, the water you get via a well out of aquifer.
It's a deep level, but now they're trying to limit it. So they want to use more surface water.
Right, because you had, in Northwest Harris County, there was a very serious problem of subsidence where the ground sinks as you're sucking the water out because you're taking too much too fast.
Collapse,
so the ground is sinking, and so there was you know, a pullback and say, hey, we need to look at what causes this and how we can get away from groundwater so that we can you know, shift more to surface water. But like for our neighborhood, New Territory, you know, that was one of the reasons we became part of Sugarland, is you know, we're on well water, and we would have to meet the guidelines of what percentage was surface water, and there was no water rights to buy, right? I mean, right down the Brazos River, but all those rights are sold. So, you know, our source for getting water was through Sugarland.
Yeah. Okay, on the new topic, as a treasurer, you don't need to interact a lot with the public.
Correct.
Like a regular, like a state representative as council. But you have a very interesting background. You have traveled to several countries. Tell us a few countries that you traveled to.
Well, you know, being in oil and gas exploration, you know, and I worked for an international oil company. It was based in Europe, exploration seismic company, and while I never lived in these other places, I traveled all the time. To 6 of the 7 continents, and you know, many trips to Singapore, Malaysia. I had an office in Malaysia where I had staff reporting to me. Shanghai, Beijing. We used to do you know, computer sales of our software and that to CNPC and CNNOC, and you know, so for oil exploration, you know, we had equipment we had deployed in the Daiqing oil field up near Harbin and those areas. So we've used to go, you know, used to make trips over there, and we'd be negotiating, you know, contracts and make those sales. And that was, you know, in the early mid-90s when did most of those trips to China, but. You know, Australia.
You speak some Chinese?
No. Kanbei.
We cannot Kanbei right now. We might. Okay. What country did you find most interesting, and why?
Every country has something unique about it.
Smart answer.
Yeah, no, but we actually, I mean, one of the places I kind of thought was neat because of the variety of the terrain and whatever. Our oldest daughter did a semester abroad in South Africa.
Wow.
And we went and visited her there. And, as down there near, she was in Stellenbosch, but we went down to Cape Town, and as you have the East Coast and the West Coast of the tail there of Africa, and you have, very different, unique terrain, different cultures. We got to go visit. My daughter was working in what they call a creche, where they take care of the kids, while the parents were working in the vineyards and visit with these kids, and some of which had AIDS, and other issues going on. But it was very, to see that, and then you go, a little bit further, and then you see, the wealth and the, people in the vineyards buying stuff, and stuff, or the animal sanctuaries, so it was kind of as far as variety, I think that was, one of the most interesting places. Then I have, other places that, very sad to me. Like I used to travel to Caracas, Venezuela in the early 90s, and it was very booming, a beautiful place. You had the Sabana Grande, where you had shops all along the way and all that, and all that's gone now. So that's, kind of, very sad. One of my experiences that was, I thought was an odd one for me, for most people, but was, we in China and went to the Great Wall, and, there's all these tourists and all these people bustling around, and everybody thinks about the Great Wall of China, the Great Wall of China. And here's this elderly lady with a broom walking down the wall, sweeping and sweeping, and it's like, here's the person whose job is to sweep the Great Wall of China, And, so, I mean, it's funny, everybody else is looking at all the stuff, but to me, that was, the interesting feature was...
He's a very compassionate person.
Yeah. But,
you like the physical aspect
of
it.
Yeah. So it was, that was a moment, just kind of gave chills thinking, everybody thinks about this place, how great it is or whatever, but here's a person... That's their job. Sweep this great thing,
Wow. Wow. You should write about that.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you this question, a question that I don't normally ask people, because the fact that you have been around the world, you've seen things. Do you think, as of today, the United States of America is still the most powerful country in whatever it means?
I think without a doubt, we are the most influential country. Okay. I don't like to use the word power because that kind of asserts somebody over somebody else, but I think we have the greatest influence on the world, and that's a very powerful thing, to have influence, and you have to be very conscientious about how you use influence at given times. I mean, we've seen times where we get involved and it doesn't work out. Other times when we get involved and we're making things better for people. So it's and it's not an easy thing,
The world had changed quite a bit, right?
Yeah, it changed quite a bit, and it's you're seeing more influence in other places.
Right.
So.
You see a shift going from independent state to more interdependent. Like we have to rely on each other.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, of course. And even if you just go back to the early days of the U.S. and our development, right? I mean, we're a British colony, but much of the population in those early years were not British. They were Dutch or German, and so we have been this melting pot of that ties us to the rest of the world, from the start, and it's just that has grown and expanded over the years, and it's you're always going to have that interdependency, and it's just a matter of whether
the degree,
economics, emotion, culture.
Yeah.
Where are those?
Yeah, I'm very proud to be an American.
Yeah.
What is it that you're proud of to be an American? Tell me a few things.
I'm proud of how we've maintained the ability for virtually anyone to decide what they're going to do and where they're going to go. I mean, we all, you got to face reality and, the roadblocks and overcome, but you really, I don't think there's anywhere else in the world where you could, say that literally anybody has the opportunity to succeed as to what success means to them. And, I just look back on my family, on my dad's side, they came over from Germany and they were coal miners in Pennsylvania, and you look at
what year was that? I'm always curious.
Yeah, I think it was like the decade. They started about the decade after the Civil War.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the 50s something.
Yeah, 1850. Yeah, something like that. And they 1860s, 70s, and they all had very short lives. Breathing the coal dust and whatever. Yeah. And then I look at my on my mom's side, the Sicilians that came over. And they worked their way in South Louisiana, and they started out picking strawberries and whatever other crops, and then all became business owners, and over the years became everything from bakeries to whatever, and it's that opportunity is what I think most proud of in the United States. These people have, anybody who comes in or anybody that's born here really, I mean, of course you got to deal with environmental issues, with the people around you, the bad influences and all that. But I just look at myself growing up, and most of the people I grew up with, in my neighborhood, which wasn't a very wealthy neighborhood, my mom and dad had to work real hard. We, it was, not, I wouldn't call ourselves poor, but we were, not able to just do whatever we wanted to do economically. And most of the people I grew up with around me were either dead or in jail by the time, and I always seemed to have that, well, I got to get away from this now. I got, it's kind of, and that's that personal responsibility. Because when people often ask me, what do you stand for fundamentally?
Right.
And it's liberty and personal responsibility, and they go hand in hand. You can't have liberty without being personally responsible for yourself and the people around you, and you can't, have personal responsibility if you don't have liberty. So it's, I think everyone has the opportunity to step up and choose their course.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Liberty and responsibilities.
Yeah, I learned a lot of things with you just the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, many things I never heard about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, when Sky and I interview people, it's not about a person as a politician.
Yeah.
And to know about your background, your philosophy, your mentalities. And because, those of that, you cannot just change off that and to fit into the mold of the position of that politicians.
Yeah.
So the fact that, hopefully after today, right, Sky, people get to know the Fort Bend County Treasurer Bill Rickert as a person. They knew that you came from a, very humble beginning, and then you make your way up, and then you have been a good contribution to the communities, and we know you. So what else? We still have a few more minutes, guys. What else do you think that our audience need to know about our treasurer? Do you think Fort Bend is still one of the best counties in the nation?
Without a doubt.
Look at him. He said with confidence. Wow, I like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's a great place to live, raise a family.
Yes.
It's funny, growing up in New Orleans, and I was traveling all over the world from there.
Yes.
And I had seen, dealt with and had people working for me in all different cultures all over the
so
world.
Blessed.
And then moved over here, and it's like, wow, okay, this is what I work with. This is the same environment.
Yes.
And it's really nice to have a community where everybody works together, everybody cares, everybody tries to step up and do their part to make it all happen.
Right. So you appreciate the diversities of
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
you have no problem with that, Bill.
no. I have great.
You lived it.
Yeah. No, I've worked with people.
So what next, Bill? I mean, you've been served for one term, and so
there's a whole lot more, as you know.
November is coming up.
Yeah. Election in November, and
are you going to run again?
Yes. Oh, yes.
You will.
I'm in. I've made the commitment to the people, and I think I have a whole lot more to get done. As I meant, county government can be slow. It takes time to get all the things that you can get in place, and I'd love to have the opportunity to continue contributing and using all those experiences that I've picked up over the years and talents to give back to the community and help the county move in the right direction.
So the job is unfinished.
Job is unfinished. It's never finished. Like I said,
I mean, definite, in a relative term.
Continuous improvement, right?
Yes, yes.
I believe you're never done, whether it's developing yourself or your business,
never stop, Andy,
your business, or your family relationships. All that, always continuous improvement.
I love that mentality. Yeah. In Japanese, there's a term called kaizen. Never stop us improving. As we have a lot of audience, Sky, who live in Fort Bend.
Yeah.
So if you were given a couple of minutes to tell people why they should elect Bill to be the next treasurer, what would you say?
Sure. Well, it's important that we elect people into positions that can perform and contribute to the job. We quite often get caught up in politics of, what's going on in D.C. or what's going on in Florida or what's going on, somewhere else. But it's truly about Fort Bend County and performing these functional positions in a way that is best for the people now and long term, right? And the changes we've done so far with the Treasurer's Office, the influence in working with other groups within the county, in addition to the things that we can continue to improve. There's still plenty of gaps. There's still plenty of areas to move forward. Plus, at the same time, maintaining the integrity and the security of the office as far as securing our financial assets and making sure we're not taking risks, that we have all the bases covered, it's about having the best person possible in the position,
Awesome.
And I look forward to continue to serve and having the opportunity to continue to influence improvement and change.
Awesome. Is there anything else you would like to add before we end?
I think it's good. You already took everything.
Okay, sounds good. We, Sky and I appreciate you for coming, Bill.
Oh, and thank you.
And we wish you the best of luck and continue to give your best to our county. I know that you love our county because your actions of the past have shown. I've seen you in so many places. Best of luck to you on that.
Thank you both.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.